Okay, today we're going to discuss how we use the metric system to measure things. First off, let's discuss why we use the metric system. Well, one of the reasons we use the metric system is because most of the rest of the world uses metric units, and when scientists want to compare results from experiments, it's much easier if we all are using a common system of measurement. Okay, so there's no confusion about conversion into new systems. So we all like to use the same system, which is the metric system. Another reason why we use the metric system is because it's based on the unit 10. Okay, so it's very easy to work with. Anytime you have to convert within the metric system, you're either multiplying or dividing by a multiple of 10. So it's really just moving the decimal point. So it's much easier to convert larger to smaller units and smaller units to larger units. Okay, so it's based on units of 10. It's much easier to use this system. For instance, there is much more work involved in converting 3.2 miles into inches. Think about that for a second. So in order to calculate this, you have to know several things. First, you have to know that there are 5,280 feet in 1 mile. Then you have to multiply that by 3. Then you have to calculate 20% of a mile. And then you have to add them together to end up with your total number of feet, 16,896. And you're not done yet. Then you have to know that there are 12 inches in every foot. So you have to multiply the total number of feet by 12 to calculate the total number of inches in 3.2 miles. Okay? So it's very involved there. Now let's look at the metric system. Remember, we said it was based on units of 10. The metric system uses the same base units for each type of measurement we'll be doing this year. Meters for distance, liters for volume, and grams for mass. The abbreviation I put in parentheses for each one. So we'll be using several abbreviations when we use the metric system. So the abbreviation for meter is M, liter is L, and grams is G. These are also our base words or the suffix we will use for each type of measurement. There are 6 prefixes we'll be using this year. There are many more, but we're only going to use these 6 for the most part this year. They include kilo, hecto, deca, deci, centi, and milli. Remember, our base units will be right in the middle. The meter, the liter, the gram. I'll put their abbreviations there. Okay? Now, each one of these prefixes will be associated with the type of measurement it's making. And I'm going to write the symbols down for each one. Now, each prefix has a value as well. Kilo has a value of 1,000, meaning if you have 1 kilometer, that means that is equal to 1,000 meters. Hecto means 100. And you'll notice that this number is 10 times smaller than the number next to it. So if you have 1 hectoliter, that is equal to 100 liters. Deca is worth 10. So if you had a decagram, if you had 1 decagram, that's equal to 10 grams because the symbol deca multiplies the grams by 10. And you'll notice it's 10 times smaller than hecto. The base units are equal to 1. Okay? And then we have the units that are smaller than 1. The decimeter, which is 1/10 of a meter. So a decimeter is 1/10 of a meter. A deciliter is 1/10 of a liter. So if you had a 1 liter bottle and you only had a little bit left, if you had 10% of it left, that's a deciliter. A centiliter is 1/100th. And milli has a value of 1/1000th. So anything that a millimeter is 1/1000th of a meter. So there's 1,000 millimeters in 1 meter. Okay? So since each prefix is 10 times more or less then the prefix next to it on either side, we can calculate and convert units very easily as long as we remember the order of prefixes. One way to remember the order of these prefixes is through a silly sentence where the first letter in each word represents the prefix. All right, and that sentence is, King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk. What you should notice is the first letter in each word represents the prefix that it's representing. So king, kilo, Henry, hecto, died, deca, by, the base unit, drinking, deci, chocolate, centi, and milk, milli. For example, 1 kilometer equals 10 hectometers, which equals 100 decameters, which equals 1,000 meters, which equals 10,000 decimeters, which equals 100,000 centimeters, which equals 1,000,000 millimeters. Okay? What you should notice is simply each time this decimal just got moved one space further, and they filled it in with a 0. So the decimal keeps moving to the right one place as you move past a prefix. So when you move from a larger unit of measurement towards a smaller unit of measurement, you're going to multiply by 10 for every prefix that you jump to or jump past. Okay? Now, if we are going from a smaller unit of measurement to a larger unit of measurement, we're going to divide by 10. So let's look at that. Let's start with 1 millimeter. When you go from millimeters to centimeters, you move the decimal. So 1 millimeter is equal to 0.1 centimeters, which is equal to 0.01 decimeters, which is equal to 0.001 meters, which is equal to 0.0001 decimeters, which is equal to 0.00001 hectometers, 4 zeros. Oops, I ran out of space there. Hectometers, which is equal to 0.000001 kilometers. Okay, so as you can see, when you go from a smaller unit of measurement to a larger unit of measurement, the number becomes smaller. So you're dividing by 10 for each prefix you jump to and pass, okay? The point is, every time you move past a prefix, you move the decimal in that direction and fill in with zeros if you need to. So every time you move from a larger prefix to a smaller prefix, you multiply by 10 because you're going to a smaller unit of measurement, so the number is going to be larger. When you move from a smaller prefix to a larger prefix, you divide by 10 because you're moving to a larger unit of measurement. Okay? Now remember, when you multiply by 10, the decimal moves right. When you divide by 10, the decimal moves left. In our next lecture, we're going to discuss and look at how to convert within the metric system, and we'll do some practice problems. Okay, that's all we have for today. Make sure you took notes on this. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. There will be activities in your notebook that you can work on to practice. If you're having trouble doing it, please make sure you ask one of us, and we'll help you as we walk around the room. Okay? Have a good night.